Hi students, we are getting ready to do chapter 5 in our advertising class. So let's get started. It's all about communication and we're really dissecting this a little bit more. So how does brand communication work? So the whole thing about brand communication is it's all about getting our attention in some way. So think about the brands that you love. How do they get your attention? Is it an Instagram post? Is it an email? Is it something on Facebook? What is it that connects you to that brand and how do they message to you? So it's usually through getting our attention, giving us information about something, and then also entertaining us more and more with companies like TikTok. It is purposeful in that it seeks to create some kind of response in us. So they want us to draw an inquiry, a sale, a visit to the website, maybe it's a test drive. The Mass Communication Foundation. So there is a model here called SMCR, source, message, channel, and receiver. And if you've ever taken any kind of communications course before, you've seen what I'm going to show you in just a second, which is basically how we as consumers receive messages. So feedback is also the important part here that they don't talk about, and monitoring the response of the receiver to the message. So you remember this old communication model. So they break everything down moving from left to right. So you have the advertiser, right? Let's just say Heinz Ketchup. The agency is the Archer Group. The channel or media they decide to use is many different things. It could be Instagram, it could be TV ads, it could be print. The interpretation is when we decode the message, okay? And then we move into the target audience, which is us, we're the receivers on the other end. So there's some things that get in the way. On the top section, it's something called noise. And when I used to teach communication classes, we talk about what noise means. And noise isn't necessarily like this. Okay, not that kind of noise always. It could be someone drilling in the background, my dog barking in the background, God knows it happens. It can also be, something that distracts us. A grumbling stomach, I'm hungry, I have a headache. That can also be noise, okay? Opinions of others, okay? Now the next arrow is feedback. So you see how it's this big circle of communication that goes around and around. Feedback is what we get when we find out if, our message is working. We find that out in a lot of different ways that we'll discuss in this chapter. So the brand communication model is in chapter 5, figure 5.2 in your textbook. So I just goes through everything I just talked about. That source, the message, the media mix, the internal noise. Okay, so internally my stomach could be growling. I have a headache. External noise could be the actual noise outside, maybe public opinion, or competition is another good way to look at it. Yeah, so this is just another breakdown of what this looks like. Adding interaction to a brand communication. That's kind of something that's new, okay? Not new like in the last couple of years, but new in the last 10 to 15 years. Mass communication is traditionally a one-way process with messaging, but now these days companies are way more involved with two-way communication called interactive communication. The source and the receiver change positions as the message bounces back and forth between them. So think about your favorite brand. Have you ever interacted with them? Have you sent them a tweet? Have you connected with them on Instagram? What have you done? Maybe you gave them a review or maybe a complaint. Okay, so here's the interactive version of what this model looks like. So it's just the basic communication model is modified to show the interactive part. There's conversation or dialogue, shared communication, and now the source and receiver change positions, okay? And the receiver, they just go back and forth and switch. I actually like it like this now, because companies need to know if their product is failing or it's a good product. Okay, so adding interaction. The move toward interactivity, that interest in your product, it's called buzz marketing, and it indicates that marketing communication is moving beyond two-way communication. Consumers can now react to messages with comments and phone calls and emails and inquiries, initiate communication as well as receive it. So here's a great Coke video that you can watch, buzz marketing. It's just a fun way that Coke has communicated with their target audience. So take a look at it for further information. The move toward interactivity. Advertisers are listening more, okay, as well as sending messages. Word of mouth, buzz marketing, and social media are indicators of the need for message integration. Okay, so I have this example here from the Lego group. And this person, they basically tweeted with them and said, hey, you know, I bought a box of Legos and it's missing a piece. What can I do? And Lego gets back to him right away and says, sorry about that. Please contact our customer service. So immediately it's like, oh, it's just a mistake. You know, Lego's on it, you know. I don't know if I gave you guys the example. I think I did, but Domino's, I had an issue with Domino's Pizza, and yes, they got back to me right away and said they were sorry and gave me a measly $10 gift certificate from corporate, or gift card code link. And the local shop called me once, I called them back, and that was the end of it. So, you know, it's so important to communicate, even if you've done something wrong. Hey, how can we fix this? It's not a hard thing to do. Ignoring us as consumers is a bad idea. So here's an example of interactive communication. It's a building block of that customer brand experience, okay? Determining the likelihood of repeat business and brand loyalty. And we talked about brand loyalty in the last chapter. It's so important, if you have that loyal customer, to keep that loyal customer. So take a look at this. TD Bank decided to give back to their customer in a way of saying thanks. And there was a lot of buzz around it. You know, they get a lot of press, and you know, that's the idea of it. And quite frankly, it just builds that connection and makes it stronger and stronger with their customer. Nonverbal communication can be just as powerful. Many commercials rely on the impact of compelling visuals, okay, in communication. So that's why we use things like slogans, and we use logos and imagery and color to connect with our target audience. Cues and signals are used in commercials communication to help us structure a meaning. So I have this video here all on logos, the hidden meanings behind them, you know, Baskin Robbins, FedEx, Tostitos. If you're wondering further about this, take a look at them. They're pretty cool. The effects behind effectiveness. So above all, brand communication must be purposeful. It must have some effect on the people who read it or see it. This impact is known as effects. The desired impact is formally stated as a set of objectives or statements of measurable goals. So when you are creating an ad campaign, you have to have objectives that say, this is what this ad or message will do. It will increase sales, it will increase likes, it will increase shares, etc., etc. Okay, so here's a great example. So the other thing is, it has to be impactful, and during these challenging last few months, many companies, as you know, because you're doing a project around this, have come out with ads for the pandemic and what we should be doing with our time. And Nike came out with a really great one. And LeBron James narrates it, and it's really good. Take a look at it. Think about the national ads you're going to choose for your paper, and think about if they were effective, were they impactful, or were they just telling us to wash our hands and social distance? If that's the case, that's not helping anybody. We need to feel like we're getting someplace and moving on. And that's what a lot of these new ads coming out are doing. So there's two traditional approaches to describe the effectiveness of an ad. One, it needs to get our attention. Okay, so maybe LeBron James gets our attention. Okay, it keeps our interest because now there's a lot of other celebrities in the ad. Okay, there's a desire to be like them. And then the action is that, you know, we like Nike products and we feel connected with the brand. Okay, it's called Think, Feel, and Do, AIDA. Okay, AIDA. Think about the message, feel something about the brand, then do something, such as try it or buy it. Here's a great example. Budweiser had an ad that they created after 9/11. It was only shown once because it wasn't about making money. Talk about impactful. Take a look at this. It is basically a bowing down of the horses to say thank you to the first responders during 9/11. Problems with traditional approaches. Okay, so in ad effectiveness, okay, they presume a predictable process for consumers, okay? They don't think about people that like have an impulse buy or just by habit buy something, okay? Ultimately, brand communication is the most important consideration. So the challenge here is to cut through clutter. As you can see from this landscape in Times Square, I hope in your lifetime you get to go there one day. It is amazing. It is an advertiser's paradise. But talk about clutter. This is the idea here. We get so many messages sent to us every day, and it's important for us to, as advertisers, to be able to cut through the clutter. How do they do it? So there's a thing called the facets of impact. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. So, true or false, are consumers loyal to brands that say something about them as human beings? I think it's true. You don't have to, you know, agree with me, but there's definitely brands that I use that say something about me. Whether it be someone who's conservative with their money and buying maybe an off-brand product, or buying something that's more comfortable to wear. What does that say about me? What particular brand I use? Okay, so there's a facet model that we're going to be coming back to a lot during this semester. But here it is on the right. And it is useful both in setting objectives for an ad and the advertising effectiveness, but also evaluating the effectiveness of the ad. So, 6 types of consumer responses. 1, awareness, that's the perception facet. 2, we feel, that's affective. We think and understand, that's cognitive. We connect or associate with the ad or the message. We believe and we're persuaded. And lastly, we act and do or buy. Let's break these down a little bit more in the chapter. Okay, the perception facet continued. Awareness, perception, the process by which we receive information through our 5 senses. We talked about this in the beginning of the semester where we talked about, you know, we love to feel products, we like to taste them, smell them, see them, okay, hear them. For an advertisement to be effective, it first must be noticed or at least register on some level. Okay, so let's use the example of the billboard on 95 or the Turnpike. The Your Wife is Hot. Okay, funny, bright yellow, takes you off guard. Okay, awareness results when a brand message makes an impression, when something registers. Okay, I know it's an air conditioning company. I don't know which one. Okay, but you get my point. Factors that drive perception. Consumers select messages to which they pay attention to by using selective perception, okay? That's where the clutter comes in. What if we paid attention to every little thing that we saw? We'd go nuts. Exposure is media planners want consumers to see or hear the message. So they're going to place the ads according to their target audience and what they're viewing. So if your age group typically is listening to or watching TikTok and you're on Instagram, okay? That's your top areas versus my age group might be television and Facebook. Okay, selection and attention. By using selective attention, consumers choose to attend to the message. Okay, interest, the receiver is mentally engaged with an ad or product. So somehow this advertiser's message has connected me and it has a stickiness because it sticks with me. So that's where when we sing things or we know songs, or remember a logo, that's called stickiness. Okay, I'm loving it. McDonald's. If I asked you right now, tell me a famous tagline, that's what you're going to say. I'm loving it, or the State Farm ad, Jake from State Farm, you know, these kinds of things. $5 foot long, they're back. These kinds of things. Factors that drive our perception. Relevance. Obviously, if it relates to something that we're interested in, it's going to stick with us. Curiosity resulting from questioning, wanting to know more. Sometimes there's ads and it's like, okay, I want to know more. What is that? And we look it up, or we connect, or we become a fan, or we follow them. Recognition. People remember seeing the ad. And then recall means they remember what the ad said. Okay, so, and really what they said and what the actual product is even as important as the message. The synergy requirement. So, when you do your favorite ad, and we've already talked about IMC, Integrated Marketing Communication, it's when the marketers coordinate all this marketing communication messaging and it has the same message, just in a different way. That's called synergy. And this means individual messages have more impact working jointly than they would on their own. So I could see a one-off ad, but if I see an ad that's on a billboard, and then I see it on TV, and then I get a Facebook post, then I see it on maybe a bus, and then Instagram, and then someone tweeted, that's the whole picture, okay? That's the integrated marketing communication plan. Subliminal advertising. That's kind of under the radar, as they say, considered controversial. Subliminal messages are designed to get past our perceptual filters by talking directly to our subconscious. Critics believe that subliminal advertising is considered unfair and manipulates people. A lot of times they say they've used them in movie theaters where they flash like drinks or popcorn quickly to make us hungrier or want more to drink. So here's an example here. So a lot of times there's a message in the ice cubes of drinks. Okay, so it says a liquor advertising campaign showed ice cubes with shapes in them and deliberately called attention to these supposedly subliminal messages. So this is actually by, it says people have been trying to find the breasts in these ice cubes since 1957. So some companies were known for manipulating things and having people see things they weren't supposed to. If you take my consumer behavior class, we also talk about this in that class as well. Okay, the emotion facet. Okay. Affective responses mirror our feelings about something. Anger, love, fear, or hate. Affective describes something that stimulates wants, touches the emotions, and elicits feelings. I think we can all agree that during these challenging times, there are definitely companies that kind of pulled at our heartstrings, as they say, and made us feel like, I don't have it so bad. Look at these frontline workers or these people that, have lost jobs and homes and etc. So brand messages can arouse a range of positive or negative emotions. I have an example here of Subaru, who usually does a lot of those kind of ads that make us think about, dogs and life and family. But this is the Commitment to Communities ad during these challenging times. So take a look at that, and you can certainly think of an ad that kind of makes you connect. Factors that drive emotion. Wants and desires are driven by emotions and based on wishes, longings, and cravings. Excitement is a step above an interest in terms of intensity, so our emotions or passions are aroused. Feelings are addressed with emotional appeals based on humor, love, fear. So there's a lot of things advertisers do to connect with us, right? They do things like using nostalgic music, a certain fashion, colors. They use humor, they use athletes, they use celebrities. Factors that drive emotion, liking. If I like the ad, then those positive feelings usually transfer to the brand. Sometimes I've seen ads like, for instance, the Pringle ad for during the Super Bowl. Because I don't watch that cartoon that they connected with, I had no idea what they were talking about. So they kind of miss me as a target audience altogether. Resonance is a feeling that the message rings true. Does it resonate with you? It does if they use a certain celebrity or someone that connects with you in your age group or a hobby or something that you're interested in. The cognitive facet, that's that I think, I understand. Cognition refers to how consumers search for and make sense of information and learn and understand something. It is a rational response to a message that comes from thinking something through. Factors that drive cognition: need. Ad messages describe something missing in our life. Cognitive learning usually presents facts and information. A lot of drug companies use cognitive facet because they're explaining something that has to do with our health and a drug that goes in our body. Comprehension is a process by which we understand and make sense of things or acquire knowledge. So McDonald's, they're building needs and wants here. That motivation when you're driving down the highway and I'm hungry, guess what? That looks really good. Thinking and understanding continued here. So factors that drive cognition. So differentiation, that's the consumer's ability to distinguish between competing brands based on an understanding of a competitive advantage. So you may buy a certain pair of sneakers or jeans or a car because it has a competitive advantage over others. Maybe the style's nicer or the quality of it's nicer. Can you think of a brand with a clear competitive advantage? I'm sure that you can. It's usually the brands that we buy. We think that they are better. Maybe the price is lower. Recall is a measure of learning or understanding. One remembers the ad and the brand and the copy point. So obviously, a advertiser wants the consumer to remember what the product is, okay? What the brand is and what's been said in the message, okay? That's called recall. A lot of times we can recall maybe the logo but we might not remember the whole brand. Okay, thinking and feeling, notice that these two factors work together. We have to think, we have to feel. Okay, there's the association factor. That means we use symbols to communicate. It's the primary tool used in brand communication. Factors that drive this are brand linkages. They reflect the degree to which associations in the message and consumer interest connect to the brand. Okay, symbolism, a brand takes on a symbolic meaning that stands for something. Could be abstract qualities. So let me give you a little example of what I mean by association or brand linkage. So when you think of things like Nike, Viagra, and Mountain Dew. Okay, immediately, without thinking, the things that come to your mind are what? Associations. Going to be quiet for a second. Nike, Viagra, Mountain Dew. We already have an image in our head. Okay? Nike, maybe a swoosh. Okay? Maybe Viagra, an old man. Gray man. Mountain Dew, maybe something that's a little more upbeat, you know, with caffeine, skateboarders, things like that. Here's a great example of Coke with their symbolism, hug me, vending machine in Japan. We all know, even if we can't read Japanese, that we know exactly what this is, okay? We know the shape of the bottle, we know the colors, we know that connection that the brand is made. Okay, more about association and connecting. So there's conditioned learning. Thoughts and feelings become linked to the brand through the repetition of a message. So over and over again, we might watch a Subaru commercial and know that it's all about love and family and safety. Transformation, a product takes a meaning and a product takes on a meaning and is transformed into something special or differentiated. So I have an example here of a YouTube video for Special K, not only the cereal, but the protein bars, but they have like a really inspirational messaging that, you know, makes you want to associate that feeling with Special K. Now let's get to the persuasion part. Okay, believing. Persuasion is consciously influencing or motivating the receiver of the message to believe or do something. The do something is to like it, to buy it, to use it. Attitude is an inclination to react in a given way. When people are convinced of something, their attitudes are expressed in beliefs. Okay, so here's a great example of that. One of the most famous ad campaigns is the Got Milk ad. If you can't tell, you know, I'm very much into the food business here and food messaging. But what they did, watch this YouTube video. It's really about the creator of this milk ad. And really what it did was it was trying to change our attitude. You know, milk is milk, okay? Now there's a billion kinds of milk. There's almond milk and oat milk and lactose free and fat free and 1%. But back then, when they first started the milk ad, they wanted to change our perception of milk that, you know, it's a better alternative than juice or sodas. And that it's not just for kids, that it is for everybody. You know, it's not just for the milk and cookies. But they have athletes and celebrities and musicians and models and actors and you. That's what they're trying to say. If everybody else is drinking milk and it's so good for you, it does a body good, then you should be drinking it too. Let's change our attitude about that. And it totally did. It was a huge success. More on persuasion. So the factors that drive us in persuasion is motivation. Something prompts us to act in a certain way. Maybe our clothes are too tight. Maybe that means we have to lose weight and be healthier and do more exercise. That's what motivates us. Influence is usually opinion leaders may influence our attitudes. Influencers are huge. Word of mouth is created by strategies that engage us, like athletes or actors or you know, different people that you follow, whether it's for a hair care product or a beauty product or certain kind of healthy foods. Involvement is the degree to which one attends to messages and how they make product decisions. The more expensive the product, the more involved we get with it, okay? So think about that. The more expensive, maybe it's an Apple computer, maybe it's a car, maybe it's a house. You know, we're not going to get involved with a pack of gum, typically, or typically a soda, unless you're Coke and you decide to put our names on it. Now all of a sudden I'm involved. So they're genii over there at Coke. Okay, factors that drive persuasion, engagement. Are you turning me on and connecting me? Conviction part is consumers agree with the message and achieve a state of certainty or belief about a brand. Preference and intention. Here the consumers are motivated by conviction. Now you're making me a brand loyal product. I prefer your product. Okay, brand loyalty involves the attitude, that emotion, the action built around customer satisfaction. Believability and credibility, okay? So believability means that it's credible. The message is credible, okay? It's trustworthy, okay? And who is saying it is trustworthy, okay? If it's someone we don't believe even uses the product, it's not really going to kind of translate or resonate with us, okay? If I feel like someone really is using the product, that's why I like when they say that they're not using an actor, that they're using a real person that uses the product. That's why bloggers and that's why influencers have become so popular, right? Think about that. You trust a lot of influencers because they're just like you and they're showing you how the product works, and they sometimes even give you a discount code. Okay, behavior, that's the act and do part, okay? It can involve things like trying the product, sampling it, buying the product, visiting a store, returning an inquiry card, calling a toll-free number, clicking on a website, watching a video. Okay, this is how we get the consumer to act or do. Factors that drive the behavioral response. Well, this is what advertisers do. It's called mental rehearsal. And they attempt to create the virtual memories, okay, things that we can imagine ourselves doing. So that's what they do in an ad. They see you with a Swiffer. I can imagine me cleaning my house and getting the pet hair off the floor and making sure my house is dust free so I can sit back and relax. Okay, that's like imagining myself. That's a mental rehearsal. Trial, this is important for new or expensive products. That's like memberships to gyms, driving a car down a mountain, okay? Advertising can stimulate sales by the call to action, okay? And again, that kind of goes back to the sales promotion, you know, where it's a limited time offer, you know, the today's special value. Factors that drive the behavioral response. Contacting consumers respond by contacting the advertiser. Okay, advocating and referrals. Advocacy means speaking out on the brand's behalf. There's a lot of companies that have brand ambassadors. Referrals occur when a satisfied customer recommends a favorite brand. This is when we go ahead and we look on reviews of things. Airbnb, I was just looking. I want to see what the reviews are, right? Because I want to know, what did they do when they were there? How big was the place? Was it clean? Was it comfortable? Was it near fun places? Prevention, negative messages about an unwanted behavior with incentives to stimulate the desired behavior. Prevention advertising, that behavior is getting people to stop doing something like smoking or vaping. Okay, so next chapter is all about market research, chapter 6. I want you to make sure your group sets up a call with me. I know a couple of you already have. I want you to start working on that survey. There's 10 to 15 questions. Each of you is to contribute in the group. Come boil it down to 10 to 15 questions. Submit it to me so I can give you feedback. Make sure the questions make sense to the topic that you've chosen. Those 4 brands that you've chosen, okay? Make sure the survey questions pertain to that. Then you get your data back and you will be helping your paper out, not harming your paper. Okay, see you in chapter 6.